Mike here from the Royal Jam Recording Studio in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're okay. Everybody's okay. I hope you're okay. Stay safe, and hopefully this will all be over by the time you even see this. But right now, nobody can go anywhere. And so I figured since I can't go anywhere, and my whole purpose in life is to teach, I figured I would give you a little bit of information about how if you play guitar, you can pretty much play anything with a string. I'll prove it to you right now. In the beginning, there was like the violin, and you're familiar with this thing, I'm sure you've seen one of these, played, of course, with a bow. And, bowed instruments go back over 1,000 years. The Chinese had one. But this pretty much came about through a guy named Avanti, and then, of course, Stradivari and Guarneri and those guys, who came up with this kind of traditional design for a violin that everybody uses now with a scroll headstock and all. Now, problem with this, of course, is it doesn't have any frets, and so most guitar players went, forget it. I don't know where the hell to put my fingers. And so fretted instruments became popular. Of course, the first fretted instruments were something like a lute, and they were little, hand-carved top, hand-carved back, hand-carved neck, bent sides bent around this sort of teardrop-shaped thing. And although this one has some modern hardware, they basically had 4 or 8 strings, and they were tuned like a violin. Both of those were tuned G, D, A, E, backwards from what guitar players are used to. The low G and then a higher D, A, E. They were generally small because they didn't have any kind of reinforcing rod in the neck, and it's just a stick of wood. So if you put too many strings at too high a tension on a bigger neck, like on a guitar, the neck bends, and that's why guitars have that metal truss rod in them. But anyway, the guitar is descended from a lute, and that's why when somebody fixes a guitar, they're called a luthier. The guitar, as we know it, is maybe 400 years old. And this is sort of like your typical Spanish classical guitar with the slots in the head. 6 strings tuned E, A, D, G, B, E, just like we do today. Although none of you do today. Half you guys are tuned to like a drop B tuning. The playing surface is so sloppy it's like shooting pool with rope. Now that basically evolved into the typical acoustic guitar that we think of today. And this one's a dreadnought, big-bodied sucker, but the first ones were actually pretty small-bodied. And Martin Guitar Company, which is still around today, of course, was sort of like with Gibson, their designs were what came about as what we think of as a traditional acoustic guitar, the flat top box. Well, in the 1940s and 50s, the electric guitar came about. The first designs were kind of like, more or less like this Telecaster design. Single coil pickups and a bolt-on neck so that they could be mass-produced relatively cheaply and with, not that much wood. Gibson and those guys were still making arch-top, hand-carved guitars with electronics, and their guitars had these humbucking pickups which arguably sounded better. So Fender and Gibson have been feuding over basic design differences since the 1950s. Gibson is the older company. Fender arguably has the more modern idea. The difference between those two guitars is really fundamental. More sustain or easier to fix the guitar? Now another way to go is the lap steel, and this kind of gets over your fear of fretless because it has fret marks, but you don't use them. You play them with a slide, either a metal slide or a glass slide, and your hand slides up and down this thing. You can put your hand where the mark is, so there's something there to tell you where the note is, but you're not really using it, you're just gliding over it to know where to go. But basically you can tune these any way you want. Some guys tune them to an open string, open chord. Some guys will tune them like a guitar. Some guys will tune them with a drop D or a drop B and be all ropey again. You know, once you have the electric thing going on, you get electric violins and electric ukuleles, and you never know what could be electrified. Somebody once wanted me to make them electric spoons.